Welcome. Today I'm going to show you why most trading advice misses the mark. So here's the core truth. How you live is how you trade. Your habits, your discipline, and your emotions, they show up on every chart and every trade. We're not just talking about strategy or indicators. We're talking about the trader behind these trades, right? So this is basically a psychology framework for disciplined trading, something practical you can apply today to improve not just your results, but your confidence, your clarity, and your consistency. So essentially, you have to work 2 times as hard on yourself than you do on trading. And I'm going to show you some of the stuff that I personally had to go through. So hopefully, this will help you in the long run as well. So, just a kind of quick background on me. So, some of you may not know who I am. So, in the beginning, this was the journey I took. So I didn't start as an expert. I started right where you are, searching for a way to change my life through the markets. Every click, every chart, every trade was a question I was desperate to answer. So then came the bot era. So I thought I could automate my way out of human emotion. I watched my account grow. I felt the thrill of winning, and then it all came crashing down. Trading didn't create my problems, it revealed them, and suddenly I had to face myself. So the pivot also is that you really can't run a marathon with a broken leg, right? So I stopped trying to fix charts and started fixing the person behind the trades. Your mindset drives your money, not the other way around. Now, the investment is basically where I went on to finding out, I basically spent thousands, chasing shortcuts, mentors, courses, strategies, all hoping for the magic formula that all of them promised. And here's what I learned, right? So the highest ROI doesn't come from buying the next system. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, showing up, being disciplined day after day. Next, radical independence. So I stopped following the noise. I became a practitioner. I built a mechanical high ROI system, one based on process, probability, consistency, not luck, not hope, not guessing. Now, full transparency, I'm not here to sell a dream. I'm here to give you the operating system for your mind, a framework to execute with elite discipline, avoid emotional mistakes, and finally trade on your terms. So let's get into it. So the core problem, right? So what is the problem when it comes to trading? Because a lot of people are saying a lot of stuff and it's very confusing if you don't have the right information. So my goal today is to give you guys the right information and hope that it helps you. So the mirror effect, right? So I want to explain to this first to you guys. So essentially, the market is like a mirror. It doesn't create problems, it reflects them. So meaning that, if you're impatient, you'll chase trades. If you have fear, you'll cut winners too early. If you have a big ego, you'll revenge trade, right? So if you struggle with discipline, focus, or self-control in your personal life, you will see it here on the chart, right? So the good news is, once you recognize your reflection, you can start to change the part of yourself that's holding you back. Trading becomes a tool for growth, not just profit, right? So essentially, you got to really take a hard look at yourself in the mirror. If you're impatient with your dog, with your cat, with your spouse, with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, with your job, if you easily get angry, if you easily get annoyed at things, you really and honestly need to take a hard look at yourself, because how you trade is how you live. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And that is basically the missing part that people don't get, is that it doesn't have anything to do with technicals. You got to really take a look at yourself and see, are you even fit for the job? Are you even fit to trade? You got to really, really do a lot of introspection. And the good news is, during this process here that I'm walking you through, I hope that it can, open up your eyes to really what this is all about and make it easier for you. So the broken leg problem, right? So here's why most psychology advice fails. They say control your emotions, be more disciplined, right? Imagine trying to run a marathon with a broken leg. You can want it all you want, but the body won't cooperate. The problem isn't your willpower, it's that the foundation isn't ready. The same goes for trading. You can know all the rules, but if your habits, routines, and emotional patterns aren't solid, you won't execute consistently. The fix isn't just mental pep talks, it's building the foundation first, right? So you basically you can't tell yourself that you're going to be disciplined, like I am a disciplined trader, I am a profitable trader. That stuff doesn't work. That's just the surface. You got to go underneath the surface, and you got to take a look at your routines and your habits. You got to build up the foundation first, and then you can give yourself pep talks. It's not the other way around. So I'm going to give you a story about, basically this is the trader with the perfect strategy, right? So you've probably seen this before. A trader spends months building a strategy, entries are clear, risk management solid, back tests look incredible, everything should work, but live trading tells a different story. They hesitate on entries, they close winners too early, they move stops, they revenge trade. The strategy wasn't the problem, the trader was. Trading doesn't create problems, it reveals habits, discipline, and emotional stability. That's when the focus shifts from fixing strategy to developing the inner trader, right? So you got to really work on the person who's taking the trades, not the system, not the charts. You have to take a look at you. So now the truth about trading psychology. Here's the truth almost no one in the trading world will tell you. Psychology isn't the first problem, right? So it's not the first problem. If you don't have a real edge, no amount of mindset work will save you. You'll still lose money, but once you do have a proven edge, a system that works, psychology becomes everything, right? So it determines whether you actually execute your edge, follow the rules, and protect yourself under pressure. In short, psychology turns potential into results. That's why we're focusing on the inner trader first, the person behind the trades. Right? Okay, so moving on. Now, the real skill of trading, right? So most traders think trading is about predicting the market or finding the perfect system. The truth is that the real skill of trading is execution. It's being able to take a proven edge consistently with discipline under emotional pressure, not once, but hundreds of times. Trading isn't magic, it's a repeatable skill. And like any skill, it comes down to practice, process, and self-mastery, right? So anybody can get lucky and put on a winning trade, right? But the real problem comes when you try to do that consistently over hundreds of trades. Can you go through the winnings? Can you go through the losses? Can you go through the break evens? You can't judge yourself off of 1 trades, 2 trades, 5 trades, 10 trades, 20 trades. You really got to give yourself enough data, right? So now I'm going to give you the inner trader framework. So essentially, these 5 pillars will guide you to consistent execution: awareness, radical honesty, clean your life, emotional clearing, and identity and detachment, right? So master these and your trading will reflect your best self. So let's get into it. So pillar 1, awareness, right? So most of us pretty much trade on autopilot. Our thoughts and emotions drive our decisions, and we think it's strategy. Here's the hard truth. Thoughts are not instructions. Just because your brain says, close it now, doesn't mean you should. Awareness is the first step. It's noticing your impulse before you act. This is where discipline begins, not by suppressing impulses, but by recognizing them before they take control, right? So you basically need to become aware to your thoughts, because it's most of the time it's going to be your ego who's doing your trading, right? So if you take a moment and pause, you'll notice that you have thoughts just constantly running through your head, right? You got to become aware to your thoughts when you're trading, when you're in the live market, when you're sitting down, you're looking at the chart, and you notice that those thoughts are going through your head. What if, is this the right level? Is this the right setup? What if this happens? What if that happens? Will this work? What if it doesn't work? What if I take a loss? Those are all your ego thinking, right? So you have to just become aware and notice those thoughts. They're not instructions, they're just noise and just chatter, right? So the first step is awareness. So here's another example of awareness, which is somatic awareness. So here's a key insight most traders miss. Your body will react before your mind does. So if you feel tension in your jaw, shallow breathing, chest tightness, foot tapping, these are warning signals. Your body is telling you, hey, you're about to trade emotionally. The rule is simple. When you notice these signals, step back or reduce your position size. It's not weakness, it's self-protection. and it keeps you in the game on the long term, right? So if you notice that you feel a shift in your body, it's best to just pause, step up, take a walk for a minute, and then come back and reset. So awareness in real trades, right? So these are the thoughts every trader will experience, the ones that lead to mistakes if we follow them blindly. So again, the key is awareness, recognize these thoughts, but don't obey them automatically. You have to ask yourself, is this coming from my system or my fear? Am I reacting or executing? By noticing these impulses without acting on them, you create a gap between emotion and action. That gap is where discipline lives, and it's what separates consistent traders from everyone else, right? So you're basically trying to notice it and try to create distance between the emotion and the action, because you don't want to always be reacting and reacting and reacting and reacting. You want to pause, notice it, and then really ask yourself, is this coming from my system or my fear? And am I reacting or executing? Right? So pillar two is radical honesty. Most traders think they're being honest with themselves, but in reality, they lie. I was patient, I followed my rules, when deep down they know they didn't. Radical honesty is admitting the truth. I chased, I forced the trade, I broke the rule. Growth doesn't happen when we rationalize our mistakes. It happens when we face them head on. So admitting your mistakes doesn't make you weak, it makes you a professional. It's the first step to building trust with yourself, right? So if you can't be honest with yourself in trading, it's never going to work out for you in the long run, because it's a game of honesty. You have to look at yourself in the mirror, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And you need to be honest with yourself. Did you force a trade? Did you follow your rules? Did you do what you say you were going to do or not? So you really need to hold yourself accountable. Now, the self-trust bank, right? So think of your self-trust like a bank account, right? So every action you take will either deposit trust or withdraw trust. When you follow through on your commitments like, workouts, routines, small promises, you are building a balance of trust. When you skip, procrastinate, or break your rules, you are withdrawing from that account. Now, this matters in trading because the more that you trust in yourself, the easier it is to execute your system under pressure. Life habits aren't separate from trading. They are the foundation of execution discipline. So you really need to start building trust in yourself. You really need to keep these small commitments in your personal life, because they will reflect over in your trading life, right? Are you making your bed every single morning you wake up? Are you going to the gym when you say you're going to go? Are you doing things that you basically are saying you're going to do, right? So the next one is clean your life first. So your trading mirror reflects your life, right? So in your life, if your life is chaotic, if you have a cluttered desk, inconsistent routines, broken promises, your brain will repeat those patterns in the markets, right? So trading is not just about charts and setups. It's a reflection of your inner habits. So you need to clean your life first. You need to organize your environment, build consistent routines, keep promises to yourself. Small wins in life create big wins in your trading execution, right? So you need to take a look at your personal day-to-day life. What are you doing? And you need to clean that up first. Once you clean that up, meaning that, you honor your commitments, you honor your word, you wake up on time, you show up to places on time, you do what you say you're going to do, you go to the gym, you exercise, you eat healthy, you do good things. Those small things will carry over to your trading, because then you'll start to build self-trust and belief in yourself, right? So examples of life discipline, again, these may seem small, even trivial, but they compound into discipline. So make your bed every morning, keep your workspace organized, and show up for your commitments. Every small habit is training your mind to follow through, which translates directly into trading. Discipline in life equals discipline in the markets, right? Pillar 3, emotional clearing. So emotions are the hidden tax on every trader. Resentment, pressure to prove yourself, frustration from losses, these create tension that spills into your trades. So, you're not just trading the market, you are trading your emotional baggage. If you don't clear it, it will push you to revenge trade, overtrade, or make impulsive decisions, right? So a lot of people, they're not really trading the market, they're trading their emotions, right? They're trading their insecurities from when they were in high school and when they didn't get picked for a sport, or when they didn't get the date that they wanted, or when they got rejected. All of these things you're carrying through your life, and it's coming out on the charts because trading will expose you. Trading exposes the very nature of you and the things that you haven't dealt with and that you need to deal with and that you need to clear, right? So the baggage tax. So this is the baggage tax. Every unresolved emotion will cost you in the market. If you feel tension, anxiety, and frustration, and the brain looks for a way to even the score. So that's when traders chase, force trades, or overtrade. The market doesn't know or care about your baggage, but your execution will suffer, right? So that's something you really need to clear up. You need to go through, figure out, what's still holding you back from, your childhood mostly, maybe your high school days, and try to clean that mess up, right? So emotional clearing practice. So there's a simple solution. Clear the emotional desk before trading. So take 5 to 10 minutes to do a daily brain dump. Write down all the frustrations, resentments, and tension. Then consciously label them not relevant to this session. It doesn't make the emotions disappear, but it reminds your brain to leave them aside. Trading becomes cleaner, calmer, and more consistent. Remember, a clear mind executes better than a smart mind under stress. So you basically just want to take some time to do some daily writing. It's basically a journal. You journal your emotions, you journal what you're feeling, what you're going through, and you just write it all down, get it all out there on paper, and that way you clear space for when it comes time to trading. Pillar 4, identity and detachment. So actually, many traders make a subtle but critical mistake early on. They equate their identity with trading outcomes. So they think, I am a trader. The problem when you tie who you are to wins and losses, every loss feels like a personal failure. Every win inflates your ego. So your emotions start running the show and discipline suffers. The professional shift is simple but powerful. Trading is what you do, not who you are, right? So each trade is just one outcome in a sea of probabilities. Detach from the result, focus on executing your plan consistently. When you do this, your mindset stabilizes, your decisions improve, and your trading becomes sustainable. Remember, the market doesn't define you. Your identity defines your trading. So trading is not something, I'm not a trader. It's not my identity. It's not who I think I am. It's just something that I do. It's something that I know that will make me money and that will help my family and my future. But it's not who I am. Who I am is a disciplined, disciplined, kind, motivated, good person. Those things, things that you can't, nobody can take from you. They come from within, not from without. Now, professional trading psychology. Now we're going to shift into something a little bit more different here. We're going to talk about advanced psychology insights. So these are insights that most traders never hear, but they're what separates good traders from great ones. You have an emotional threshold, knowing when your emotions will compromise your decisions. You have decision fatigue, understanding that mental energy is finite and fatigue drives mistakes. And number 3 is identity drives behavior. Realizing who you believe you are determines how you act under pressure. These aren't theory, these are professional secrets that can save your account and your confidence, right? So I'm going to show you them and teach them to you. So first one, emotional threshold. Every trader has a hidden limit, an emotional threshold. Your strategy, may be perfect, but if stress, frustration, or fear crosses that line, discipline collapses, right? So professionals don't ignore this. They manage it proactively. If you get 2 losses in a row, step away. If your drawdown hits 3%, stop for the day. If you're feeling emotionally triggered, reduce your size or step back. The market doesn't care about your emotions, but your trading will pay the price if you ignore them, right? So you have to understand your own personal emotional threshold, when you do your best and when you do your worst. After how many losses do you start to collapse, right? Essentially, is it 1 loss, 2 loss, 3 loss? You really need to define your emotional threshold for your own personal self, because this is a personal journey. You need to figure that out for yourself so you can be aware of it so it doesn't harm you in the long term, right? Number 2 is decision fatigue. Trading is mentally exhausting. Every decision, entries, exits, risk drains cognitive energy. When fatigue hits, the brain shifts from disciplined execution to impulse mode, right? So the best traders don't rely on willpower, they reduce the number of decisions they need to make. So trade only during fixed hours. Like you guys know that I only trade from 8 to 10 in the morning, right? Stick to predefined setups. There's only a handful of setups that I use for myself personally. It's the SNRC1, SNRC2, QMR, break and retest. That's it. Use alerts or automation to avoid mental clutter. I don't need to use that, but some people may need to do that. Predetermined position size before session. Absolutely. I'm always using a fixed percent. I use 1/4% and I split it into 2 positions. So less thinking, more executing. That's how discipline survives fatigue. All right, so you got to figure that out for yourself. So 3 is identity drives execution. So who you believe you are determines how you behave under pressure. If your subconscious identity is a gambler, you'll chase losses. If your identity is a disciplined professional, you follow your system consistently. Elite traders intentionally shape their identity. They stop saying, I hope this trade works, and start saying, I execute my system with discipline. Identity is the hidden driver behind every decision you make in the market. Change your identity and your actions naturally follow, right? So you really need to start thinking about your identity when it comes to this. You know, if you're saying that you want to be rich, if you want to have a house, if you want to travel, if you want to have the Lambo, the car, the lifestyle, all of these things, you need to get honest with yourself and you need to take a look at yourself. Are you really being a professional trader, right? Are you saying that I hope this trade works, or are you executing it with discipline, your system, right? You need to really take a look at yourself. Are you acting like a disciplined professional, or are you acting like a gambler? You really need to be honest with yourself, right? So the inner trader pyramid. So think of trading like a pyramid, right? So at the base of it, you have your life habits, your daily actions build the foundation. You have middle, which is the self-trust. Every promise you keep to yourself strengthens your confidence to execute. And then you have the top, which is the execution discipline, the ability to follow your system under pressure. Everything rests on the base. Without strong life habits, the pyramid collapses. Trading like a professional starts from the ground up, not from trying to control the market. So you need to get your life habits in order to improve your trading. Now, the trader operating system. So let's get into it. So the trader operating system is simple, right? So think of your trading like an operating system. It has 3 critical steps. You prepare, you execute, and review. Each one is simple, but when done consistently, it prevents emotional mistakes and builds real skill, right? So prepare. Emotional check, your bias, your levels, plan and validation, everything you need to do to get ready. And then execute is simply just following the process, not chasing or forcing. And then the simple review is, did you follow your rules, right? And did emotion appear? That's it. So let's go through it. Step 1 is prepare. Preparation is your secret weapon. Before you touch the charts, check your emotions. Are you stressed, tired, or frustrated? Identify your bias. Are you rooting for a move or seeing what's actually happening? Define your levels. Know exactly where you'll enter, exit, and stop. Plan and validation. Ask yourself, what would make me wrong? If you skip this step, you're pretty much leaving room for impulsive decisions. Preparation turns emotional chaos into disciplined action. So you need to prepare. You need to get ready. You can't just show up when the clock says 8 o'clock and then start going at it, right? You need to really show up and prepare. At least take some time, 15, 30 minutes to prepare yourself for what's about to happen, right? Now execute. So execution is simple but hard. Your only job during the session is to follow the plan you prepared. Don't predict the market. Don't force trades. Don't chase winners. Ask yourself constantly, am I executing my system or am I reacting emotionally? When you do this, you transform your strategy from something that looks good on paper into something that actually works in real life, right? So when it comes time to execute, you really need to be focused on your process and your plan and your checklist. You can't let your emotions or your thoughts take control. You will have emotions, you will have your thoughts trying to, basically take control, but you just need to act on your best interest anyway, right? So I feel fear. I feel anxious. I have my thoughts saying, what if this doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? I need to personally remind myself, am I executing my system? What makes this valid? And I go back to my checklist. I go through my checklist and then I say, okay, this makes sense. Execute. That's what you have to do. You have to just notice, be aware to your thoughts, your emotions, go back to your checklist and see if this is a valid setup or trade or not, and then execute, because your emotions and your thoughts are going to try to betray you every time. It's going to get easier and easier and easier as you build the muscle, but in the beginning, it's very difficult because your emotions are going to try to take control of you, and your thoughts are going to be your worst enemy. You're going to think that, you're going to think you have intuition and all these things in the beginning, but it's not true. It's your ego disguised as intuition. It's trying to trick you. So what you need to do is ask yourself, is this a valid trade according to my plan? And then you go to your plan and you go through the checklist and you see. And if everything checks up, then you execute. You execute while you feel uncomfortable, while you feel fear, while you're in discomfort, while you feel tension. That is when you're supposed to execute your trades. You're not supposed to execute your trade when you feel confident, when you feel calm, when you feel motivated, when you feel good about yourself. No, most of the time I'm executing trades and I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling, there's fear. There's thoughts trying to tell me not to take the trade. Is this the good setup? Is this the right level? Is this correct? What about this? What about that? That's when I know, okay, it's time to take the trade, because those are the thoughts that are going to try to hold you back the most, right? It's not, feeling good and thinking good that's going to, hold you back. It's the majority of the time when those thoughts come up that, what do you do? And that's what I do. I go to my checklist and I just, I check. And then if it says yes, I take it, even when I'm feeling tension or frustration. Because, at the end of the day, I'm here to make money. I'm not here to obey my feelings. Now, step 3, after the session, don't just walk away, review every trade. So I do this every single day, regardless if I traded or not. So I ask, did I follow my rules perfectly? Where did emotions creep in? What did I learn that I can apply next time, right? Because you need to really take personal inventory of your trading days and yourself, and figure out, are you improving or are you staying still? So review is how experience becomes skill. Every session is a chance to get better, not just make money. Remember, preparation removes impulsive decisions, execution enforces discipline, and review builds skill. Together, they form a system that protects your mind and grows your results. Right? So again, how you live is how you trade. I can't say that enough. That's what it comes down to. So daily inner trader practices. Now I'm going to go through some exercises that you can do, and hopefully this will help strengthen everything. So these are some daily practices, which I find them critical. So daily practices are where the inner trader comes alive, right? So you have awareness, spend just 2 minutes before trading, sitting quietly and noticing your thoughts. Don't judge, just watch. This keeps you grounded. Discipline. Pick 3 simple habits every day. Make your bed, exercise, journal. Small acts of consistency create massive momentum. Emotional clearing. Write down any frustrations, resentment, or tension, then consciously release them. This prevents old emotions from leaking into your trades. Detachment. After every trade, don't ask, did I win? Ask, did I follow my process? Execution matters more than outcome. Do these every day and trading stops being a battle of willpower and becomes a natural extension of how you live, right? So these are very, very important. I do these personally every single day, and it's what helped me the most. There's a lot of trading psychology. There's a lot of books out there. They're mostly theory. Nobody ever gives you anything practical. So the most practical thing is doing these exercises. This will help you the most. Becoming aware of your thoughts, creating distance from your thoughts and action, right? Meaning that, you don't need to be impulsive. You don't need to click, enter in a trade just because you lost. You need to wait a second, what just happened? You need to, you really need to become aware. You need to develop discipline in your personal life, clean up your personal, emotional stuff that you have, and things will go better for you. So here's the inner trader equation again. So this is the single most powerful concept in this entire presentation, which is the inner trader equation. Life habits build self-trust. Self-trust creates execution discipline. Discipline delivers consistent trading results. It's simple but transformative. The market doesn't need to change. You change your habits, your trust in yourself, your ability to execute. That's what drives results. Focus on the left side of this equation, and the right side takes care of itself. Awareness exercise, right? So before you open a chart, again, take 2 minutes to sit quietly. Watch your thoughts pass like clouds. Don't judge them. Don't react. This simple exercise trains your mind to notice impulses before you act. You start catching those automatic reactions like fear or impatience before they hijack your trading. Awareness is the first step to mastering yourself, right? So you just need to become aware of your thoughts. You're going to have these thoughts come up, and you're going to start to notice, you're like, like that's interesting. Like I didn't realize that I'm having all these thoughts. And then once you start becoming aware of your thoughts, now you start to have more power because you're separating yourself from your thoughts and emotions. You're becoming aware to them. They're not controlling you anymore. You're noticing them. Discipline exercise. Again, choose 3 small daily habits, nothing extreme. Make your bed, do 30 minutes of physical training, journal before trading or after. These small acts might seem minor, but every time you follow through, you are depositing trust in yourself. Over time, these small wins build execution discipline. Trading becomes a reflection of how you live, right? And number 3, emotional clearing exercise. So again, write down everything that's weighing on you, your resentments, your regrets, tension, then consciously choose to forgive, accept, and release. Why? Because emotional baggage leaks into your trades. Without clearing it, your brain reacts impulsively, chasing losses or forcing setups. This exercise removes the noise and gives you a clean mental slate to trade from. And that's exactly what you want to do. You want to journal. You want to, emotional dump everything on a piece of paper. Right? Trading detachment exercise. Okay, so after every trade, you need to ask yourself only one question. Did I follow my process? Not did I win? Trading is about execution, not outcomes. Focus on doing the right thing consistently, and the results will follow. Detachment trains you to stay disciplined even when emotions spike or trades go against you. That's the only thing that matters in trading, nothing else. Did I follow the process? That's absolutely it. Now, the core message of this is that the market isn't broken. You are not failing because the charts are hard. The market doesn't need to change. The trader does. Master your inner trader, your habits, your discipline, your mindset, and the results will follow naturally. This is the secret most traders miss. Focus on yourself, not the market. Your inner growth creates outer results. And that's what you need to work on, right? So now some call to action. So essentially start small, pick one exercise per day and commit to it. Document your journey, track what works, track what challenges you. Remember, consistency beats speed. You don't need to transform overnight. Small, consistent steps compound into massive change. Stick with the process and watch yourself become the disciplined trader you can be, right? So just pick one exercise, and stick to it. And then after 30 days, you'll notice a lot of things changing for you, the positive, if you do stick to it. And if you guys have any questions, you can let me know. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I look forward to sharing more on this journey with you. Thanks, guys.